Really quickly, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Smit. I lead most DeFi initiatives at OP Labs, and I'm no stranger to OP Radio, but I come in and out a lot. So I'm going to be hosting this space today for y'all, and we have a really exciting guest. He's been in this space for a long time, and I'm excited personally just to talk, very general conversation, riff, and I think it's going to be really fruitful. So without further ado, um, could we get a quick intro from your side, Will? Why don't you talk about just a background on who you are, but also give us a little bit of detail on life before crypto?
Yeah, absolutely. So I before getting into the crypto space full time, I was actually in university when I was on Hacker News. I first saw like the Bitcoin white paper. I feel like a lot of people kind of discovered the magic of Bitcoin through Hacker News at around this similar time. And I thought the technology was like really, really interesting and powerful. But it was still really early on, and the use cases for Bitcoin were still like pretty like immature and not really there yet. So I just kind of kept an eye on it because I thought the technology was really neat. And so I was a student at university. I was doing engineering. I spent a couple years at Los Alamos National Lab doing physics research, and I was in a PhD program at UC San Diego in the engineering department. And I was interested in cryptocurrency blockchain networks, and it what really kind of pushed me into the crypto space full time personally was my wife, who is my girlfriend at the time, Linda Shea. She ended up joining Coinbase very early on, and this is right around the time when I believe Overstock.com worked with Coinbase in order to accept Bitcoin for payment. And this was like one of the first real kind of indicators that crypto has real use cases and it could be a powerful technology. So through Linda joining Coinbase and just being more kind of closely following along and learning from all the innovations happening in the space, I got really interested. And when Ethereum was first launched and I learned about it, it felt like the most important invention since the internet. And I was kind of thinking like I can stay in grad school, I can do this research, and the potential impact that I'll have on people out there in the world is like usually pretty limited in like a research track. But this you know cutting edge new technology that can completely re-architect how people transact on a global scale, it felt like this is the future, and I have to focus on it. So I dropped out of grad school and moved to San Francisco, and Linda let me stay with her in San Francisco and not pay any rent for a little while, and eventually started working on Zero X after I met my co-founder Amir.
Yeah, wow, that was a really interesting story. I see a lot of parallels between our sides in weird ways. So my dad was actually a physics professor, and here I am in crypto as well with a lot of his influences. I'm curious if, like you talked about like this world of redefining the internet and how that was like the big eye opener for you. Was it easy for you to jump from like whatever you were already doing, like the physics world, into this entirely new world, or did you see some parallels in between the two?
Really, the similarity between some of the work I'd been doing in like academic work and kind of Ethereum. Uh, so I was doing a lot of like embedded programming. So working with like microprocessors like Arduinos and different types of Raspberry Pis and stuff like that, and writing embedded code, like C code that you have to compile down and push into a microprocessor. It's actually like pretty similar in some ways to writing Ethereum smart contracts, where you write the code and you compile it down, and if there's a bug, it'll get angry at you. And so I thought like, okay, Ethereum smart contracts are kind of like embedded code, but they can move money and they can own money. It's incredibly powerful. So I think that was kind of where there was like some overlap between the skill sets I'd been building in grad school and, the openness to experimenting with Ethereum smart contracts at the time. But yeah, I mean, really what kind of made Ethereum click and kind of set the course for us, my co-founder Amir and our team building 0x protocol and now Matcha. It's really kind of this core thesis that like all forms of value will end up tokenized on public blockchains, and going to be billions and billions of different tokenized assets that represent all different types of verticals, from traditional assets, stocks, bonds, fiat currencies, startup equity, all the way to video game items and things like that. And smart contracts are like the perfect substrate for tokenization. And Amir and I, kind of starting with that premise of what needs to exist in a world where there are billions of tokenized assets. Well, there needs to be exchange infrastructure that allows anyone to trade any token in a permissionless way. And so, yeah, 2016, Amir and I started working on 0x protocol, which is, kind of peer-to-peer exchange infrastructure for swapping, ERC20 tokens. And one of the things that kind of pushed us to build a protocol rather than just a product, like a consumer product, was at the time in 2016 we were pretty immersed in like the developer community, the Ethereum developer community in the Bay Area, and it was like a pretty small and tight-knit group at the time. It was like Joey Krug and the Gnosis folks, and the Pollock would stop in from time to time, and a lot of early builders. But one of the things that we kind of discovered by talking to teams in the Ethereum space was that they were all pursuing use cases that require exchange functionality, but none of them were really focused on building an exchange in itself. It was more like a building block that they needed in order to unlock a different type of use case. So for example, like prediction markets with Augur and Gnosis, and we were close with the Maker team very early on, and in order for them to create a decentralized stablecoin, there needed to be liquid markets for it. So all of these different projects were building their own kind of in-house decentralized exchanges, and we had been thinking about this very specific problem for a long time, and we thought we had like a really good approach to decentralized exchange kind of architecture, and so it kind of, we started shifting our focus from, okay, how do we build a decentralized exchange product, to how do we build an open platform that is permissionless and that anyone can create markets on top of. And so that's kind of like the journey that set us on this path and ultimately led us to building Matcha, which is a consumer product, and is a DEX aggregator. And has been live on Optimism since January last year.
Awesome. Yeah. And before I get into like Matcha and 0x and sort of like the product itself, you have been building in the space for such a long time. And when you looked at the technology, when I think about Ethereum from like a top-down level, it always comes to me as like more of a there's like properties of the ecosystem and the tech that's related to permissionless architecture, doing things better. And it really seems like back then in the initial cohort when you were building, a lot of people gravitated towards ideas like how money can be programmed, or DeFi in a weird sense, for the lack of a better word right now. Would you say that's where you saw a lot of like the vision early on?
In terms of the ability, like kind of the programmability of money.
Yeah, I guess like nowadays we see a lot more like a new use cases emerging, like gaming, like social, and the properties of Ethereum are extremely valuable there too in ways. How did you see it back when you started?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it seemed clear that like censorship resistance is kind of what makes smart contracts. Being able to like put any sort of program and deploy it, and anyone in the world can interact with it. In making sure that you enforce those rules within the smart contract. That's what allows transactions to be permissionless and trustless. And I think that yeah, I mean that was absolutely a factor in the early days. I think it's still a factor today.
100%. And switching gears towards Zero X and Matcha, you touched on Zero X a bit, and I think you alluded to Matcha being built on top of it. But for the audience, could you actually paint how you think about the two? Do you think about them as separate entities themselves? Do you think about one being built on top of each other to either help teams and developers understand, or are you trying to create sort of like that exchange that you were really talking about? How do you think about the two?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Yeah, well, so one of the things that we learned over, I would say this was kind of a learning experience from like 2017 through 2020, was that, we built Zero X Protocol. It's a system of smart contracts and a way of settling trades in a peer-to-peer manner. And we weren't building any kind of products on top of it. It was simply open source code, a developer platform, and we kind of left it to other people to go and build compelling products on top of it. And one of the things that kind of became clear over those early years in Ethereum was that smart contract developers are critical. There's not very many of them, and especially like really excellent smart contract developers, Solidity developers, and yeah, I mean, in order to like reach a broad audience and have tokenization and decentralized markets, in order for that to really scale and to see really compelling products built on top of it, we had to basically offer developer tools that look and feel like the other types of developer tools that exist in Web 2. And so we kind of shifted from building the smart contracts like that bottom trade settlement layer and some JavaScript libraries that let you talk to the smart contracts. And we kind of shifted our attention to how do we actually offer like a hosted API that developers can just plug right into their consumer product, and they'll be able to get the best price for any token in a matter of minutes. And so that was kind of, we kind of transitioned to building not only this smart contract settlement layer, but also these hosted swap APIs that we would allow other wallets and consumer products to build on top of. And through building these, so Zero X Swap API, we now, Zero X has like a few different APIs that we're building right now. We have Swap API, we have kind of like a gasless Swap API, and some others as well. We kind of realized in order to build the very best developer tools, we need to dog food them. We need to understand what it's like to interact with these developer tools and what are the rough edges that you encounter. And yeah, if there are ways that we can help kind of smooth out those sharp edges that developers encounter when building on top of blockchains. So yeah, Zero X is a developer platform. We build APIs that make it really easy to swap any token and get the best possible price. And Matcha is our consumer product that lives on top of those APIs. And yeah, Matcha is intended to be like a search engine for tokens and liquidity. You can go check it out at matcha.xyz. Would love your feedback. And yeah, so one couple of exciting details around Matcha adoption within the OP ecosystem. So yeah, we launched Matcha support for Optimism, OP mainnet in January 2022, and yeah, like 20% of the trades that have gone through Matcha since that time have been on Optimism. So around 60,000 different wallets have been using Matcha to swap tokens on the Optimism network in the last almost 2 years. And it's really exciting to see, we're able to reach more users and see broader adoption as scalability becomes a reality. So yeah, we've been really excited to be able to bring Matcha into the OP ecosystem.
100%. And like thinking about the evolution of your guys's building journey, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? To build like this almost public good piece of architecture, this thing that aggregates a lot of liquidity sources. And then since you think about it a lot, build the actual like idea that makes best use of these APIs to demonstrate what is like a good use case of utilizing the APIs as well. So um, I think I see a lot of parallels with us too. Like we've been building open source architecture for a long time, but we have to demonstrate it. We have to almost dog food it to the developers on how Optimism is like the OP stack can be used, and OP mainnet was really like the way that we wanted to pave that path. Really interesting to see those numbers. I had no idea on like the 20% numbers, so really cool metrics that you pulled up here. Um, I noticed that recently you guys have had a bit of large launches going on. Do you want to talk us through like the biggest things that you guys have launched recently? Um, I'm happy to talk in like the cross-chain swaps direction, but I'd love to highlight how you guys are thinking about the current product that you've built and what's new today.
Yeah, definitely. So as you mentioned, we're super excited to launch cross-chain swaps. We have, we've been, strong conviction believers in the idea of scaling through multiple different blockchain networks, and in particular, layer two networks. And we have been working towards building the most frictionless experience to find and trade tokens. So you come to matcha.xyz, you go to the search bar. First of all, what you'll find is every single token, every single ERC20 token that exists on OP mainnet or on Base Network, which is also built on OP Stack, every single token that exists, you'll be able to find it through the Matcha search bar. Which is really important to us because we know that people create tokens for all sorts of use cases, whether they're mainstream or even tokens are created for niche communities. So we want users to be able to find every single token that exists on OP Stack networks, and you'll also find that we're able to find you the best possible price by scanning all the different liquidity sources that exist. And so we've been working towards a more and more multi-chain experience built around this. And with the recent launch of cross-chain swaps, it's super exciting for us because we kind of view the friction of moving between networks and having to have different browser tabs open to swap on one network and figure out which bridge to use on a different tab. That's not going to allow us to onboard a mainstream audience and scale adoption. So with cross-chain swaps, the value proposition here is that if you want to find any token and you want to find the best price for it, go to Matcha and search for it, and we'll make it as easy as it can be. So yeah, we're hoping to see this kind of accelerate multi-chain activity among users.
Yeah, and maybe an opinionated question from you, just to hear your perspective, Will. Cross-chain swaps, it definitely seems like, we have a ton of liquidity fragmentation. We have a ton of ecosystems these days, and you really need to figure out a way to provide great UX to users in coordinating and connecting the dots. And I'm curious if you think that has there been like something blocking this entire initiative for a long time? Have we been building the rails for this to exist today, or nobody has done it well enough yet?
So I think it's a couple of things. So first, kind of layer two approaches, and we have kind of other kind of proof of stake networks that are more or less kind of anchored into Ethereum. These different approaches of having networks coexisting and then moving between them. This is all brand new. Like in the scheme of things, Ethereum has existed for less than 10 years, and bridges really have only started to become necessary because there's so much demand for block space that we're really forcing users to leave the Ethereum mainnet and transact on more scalable networks. the need for cross-chain swaps exists today. And we didn't see that need being as as urgent as it is right now. Users have all sorts of compelling use cases to explore out there in the multi-chain world, and getting out there and interacting and testing new applications. It's just too hard. There's too much friction right now. So Matcha removes that. So the time is right for multi-chain adoption, and we want to make that happen and accelerate it. Another thing is that bridging technologies being kind of new. We've been following it since the very beginning. We've been following different scaling solutions since back the kind of plasma evolution tree and all the different branches of it. And this technology is in its infancy, or at least it has been until recently, where bridging, especially when you're bridging between networks that don't share the same kind of consensus layer or security, it does introduce significant risks. And so we've been following multi-chain, the evolution and progression towards multi-chain and bridging solutions. We've been following since the very beginning, and it wasn't until now that we felt confident that bridging solutions have now started to mature, and they're safe for users to begin utilizing. We feel much more confident in the maturity of layer 2 networks like OP mainnet and base chain, for example. And the time is right. Users need to be able to move seamlessly between chains today. And so, it's our job to help them do that with Matcha. So those are kind of like a number of factors that, kind of explain, like, we've been sitting on the sideline for years and watching and studying, and the time is now. The space is going multi-chain, adoption's picking up, and we want to help accelerate that with Matcha.
Absolutely. And I love the way that you approach that, right? You guys are ultimately building better products and you come at it from the product angle. But a part of building a better product is understanding that a safe and secure product is also should be top of mind, right? So um, I love that. If we wanted to understand deeply what type of user profile matches the current Matcha product, would you say it's for a specific type of trader, small traders, large traders? How do you think about it?
Yeah, well, so Matcha is intended to be the most frictionless experience to find and trade tokens. So if you're looking to find a token and trade it at the very best price, then Matcha is for you. And there are a variety of reasons why people, are looking to access or sell tokens. A lot of times, kind of the most exciting new use cases that drive, waves of adoption, like NFTs, for example. These new use cases kind of manifest as tokens. And so, in this kind of increasingly multi-chain world where we have all these different networks with, vibrant ecosystems and innovation happening, allowing users to just very easily navigate this, complexity and get a token no matter where it's located and get it at the best price. That is, at the end of the day, it's a relatively narrow objective, but it's a very technically demanding objective to execute on. So, we want Matcha to be super easy to use, but super comprehensive, so that regardless of the token you're looking for, regardless of the size of the trade you're trying to complete, you're going to have like the best deal on Matcha, and it's going to be the most pleasant experience. At least that's our objective.
Absolutely, and I love that. I think that is my last question here. One question for you, just for me personally and forward thinking. How do you see the entire DeFi space evolving in the next couple of years?
Great question. I think that MEV, so minor extractable value, is something that the folks that are kind of deep in the DEX space, we've been well aware and keeping track of minor extractable value for many years, and it really wasn't until I think the last year where it became maybe the last couple of years, where it became, MEV became such an issue. Over $1 billion of value extracted from consumer trades by way of sandwich attacks and front running. I think that the opportunity size for MEV and just the amount of money that's being extracted from everyday users, it reached a scale where it could no longer be ignored. And I think that's the moment we're in now, where we all kind of acknowledge that MEV is a problem. It isn't in the best interest of end users, and designing systems in order to minimize the potential downsides of MEV to protect users from getting taken advantage of. I think that's where the space is at now, and where it's going to continue to be focused at, especially as we go multi-chain, because MEV is complicated enough when we're talking about transacting on a single network, but once you start bringing multiple networks into the conversation, the complexity ramps up quickly. So I do think that especially for decentralized exchange, the future is going to be around how do we get users the best trade execution? How do we ensure that the amount of tokens that show up in their wallet is exactly the same number that the user sees when they click, complete a trade on their UI. And yeah, I think that's an area where there's going to continue to be a lot of innovation and a lot of different types of products that are coming out to address it. That being said, if you don't know too much about MEV, but it's bad, you don't want it, just use Matcha. We have Matcha Auto, which is a trading mode that sends your transaction into a private mempool so that it can't be attacked by a malicious trading bot, and protects your trades from getting less tokens out than was anticipated. So check out Matcha Auto. It's a great way to have us just make sure you're not getting MEV extraction happening to your trades without having to be an expert. And yeah, you can try it out at matcha.xyz.
100%. I definitely think MEV aware design and products going forward are going to be incredibly important, right? And we could probably talk about MEV as a monster topic on its own. Maybe we'll do that in a future space. So, is there anything that you'd like to mention as a final CTA on your side, Will?
Well, yeah, Optimism community, we love y'all, and we really appreciate all the folks that have been using Matcha to swap on Optimism, OP mainnet, and Base. And yeah, we really hope you'll come try cross-chain swaps at matcha.xyz, and we welcome your feedback. We're building for you, and if there are ways we can improve the product for you, let us know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Will. Appreciate your time here today. We are on the forefront of this entire work. There's going to be a lot of parallels that we see with Matcha, 0x, the OP Stack, MEV. And, I hope to see you on a space again in the future. So thank you for your time. And to our audience, thank you for joining in today as well. We're going to have another space next week. And peace. Yeah, that's it for me.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you, Smit. I think, I'm not sure if Michael's on the call. I thought there might be a final.
No, not. If I think you're thinking what I'm thinking about, we're not doing that this time. But I would just say, this is Michael from Matcha real quick. I have a number of pinned tweets here that are relevant to the discussion we just had with Smit and Will. You can tap on any of these tweets to learn more about cross-chain swapping onto Optimism, learn about Matcha Auto, and that's all I have to add. Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it, Smit, and appreciate it, OP team. It's a pleasure and always happy to chat.
Awesome. Thank you all.
All right.